We needed it more than you. That's what my brother-in-law said, smirking across the living room while everyone pretended they didn't hear him. My hands were still cold from the lake water when I checked my account expecting to clear a few payments. Instead, I watched every dollar I had saved over 5 years vanish in one blinking refresh. Zero. All of it. Gone. I looked up at him. His glass raised his laugh sharp enough to cut. They thought I would crumble right there at the lake house. But the truth was simple. This wasn't the moment I broke. It was the moment I woke up. My name is Florence, and for most of my life, I believed family was something solid, something you could lean on without wondering if it would collapse beneath you. I grew up in Portland in a small house that always smelled like sawdust and Sunday coffee. My parents ran a tiny hardware store on the edge of the city, the kind of place where regulars stopped by just to talk. They raised me to work hard, keep my word, and never take more than what I earned. Allison, my younger sister, was different. She floated through life like it owed her something. While I spent summers stocking shelves at the store, she spent hers chasing parties and boys and late-night thrills. Mom used to sigh, Dad used to smile, and I used to cover for her, telling myself she just needed time to grow up. But time didn't give us what we hoped for. Not long after I turned 25, a drunk driver ran a red light and took both of my parents in one instant. The world didn't just break, it hollowed out. We sat in the lawyer's office days later, numb, barely breathing, listening as he explained the estate. A modest house, the store, and a small savings account. When everything was settled, Allison and I each received a portion. I put mine into the boutique I'd been dreaming of for years. She put hers into Kyle. He came into her life like a storm, loud, charming, too slick around the edges. The kind of man who talks fast, laughs hard, and carries himself like he's already won something he never earned. Within months, they were married. Within a year, Allison wasn't the same. Softer, quieter, always checking Kyle's expression before she spoke. I noticed, but she brushed it off. He just wants what's best for us, she'd whisper, though she never looked convinced. The lake house reunion had been Uncle Robert's idea, a chance to reset as a family. I actually believed him. I loaded the car with snacks, folded sweaters, and that warm sense of hope you only get when you want things to be better. When I pulled up to the dock, the sunlight bounced off the water like a welcome. Emma hugged me first. She leaned close and murmured, "Just prepare yourself." Inside, I tried to pretend everything was normal. I smiled. I made small talk. But Kyle's laugh carried through every room, and every time Allison looked at me, it was like she wanted to say something but couldn't. The air felt off like a storm, waiting for the right moment to hit. And I had no idea that the moment was coming for me. The first sign was small, so small I almost convinced myself I imagined it. My laptop sat on the dresser in the guest room, exactly where I'd left it when I went downstairs to help Emma chop vegetables. But when I came back up, the screen was angled differently, the charging cord plugged into a port I never used. A tiny thing, a shift of a few inches. But it hit me like a tap on the back of the neck, quiet, deliberate wrong. I brushed my fingers over the keyboard, the plastic still warm. Someone had touched it. Someone had opened it. I checked the browser history. Clean. Not empty clean. Wiped. I felt a prickle move up my spine. I tried to steady myself, telling my nerves to stop overreacting, but my instincts didn't listen. They whispered the same warning they'd whispered since I arrived. Something here is off. Later that night, while everyone played cards around the living room, I went to my phone to approve a routine payment for the boutique. Instead of the usual confirmation, I saw a red banner payment declined. I frowned, tried again, and got the same message. That was unusual, but I didn't panic yet. Technical issues happen. It wasn't until morning that everything snapped. Claire called while I was still half asleep. Her voice was tight, sharp, too controlled. "Florence, the vendor payment bounced again. And your account shows insufficient funds." My stomach dropped. That's impossible. But even before I opened my banking app, I knew what I'd see. Some part of me had known for hours. The screen-loaded numbers shifted, and then there was nothing. Not a mistake. Not a glitch. Zero. Every dollar I had saved for 5 years gone. I walked into the kitchen like a ghost. The smell of coffee, the chatter, the clatter of forks, it all felt distant, unreal. When I said, "My money's gone," the room fell silent. Uncle Robert stood up. "Gone. What do you mean, gone?" I held up my phone. "Transferred out overnight. All of it." Gasps, murmurs. Emma rushed to my side. Only 2 people didn't move. Allison staring into her mug as if she could disappear inside it. And Kyle leaning back in his chair, arms crossed, expression blank. "Did you call the bank?" Emma whispered. "I did." My voice felt hollow. They said the password and security questions were entered correctly, from a recognized device. A chill swept through the kitchen. I didn't look at anyone but Kyle. "You were near my laptop yesterday," I said quietly. "Were you in my room?" Allison's head snapped up. "Are you accusing my husband?" Kyle exhaled a laugh, short, smug, dismissive. "Maybe your little business partner messed up. Or maybe you don't know how money works." His tone sliced through the air. "Show us your bank statements," I said. "If you're so financially stable." His smirk twitched just barely. "I don't owe you proof." "Oh, really? Because if you weren't involved, you'd be shouting louder than anyone here." Allison's hands trembled. She wouldn't look at me. Kyle finally leaned forward, voice cold enough to frost glass. "We needed it more than you." The room erupted shouts, disbelief, but I didn't hear any of it. I just felt something inside me harden, settle, sharpen. This was no misunderstanding. This was betrayal, planned, personal, and precise. And it was the moment I stopped being afraid. I don't remember sitting down. One moment I was standing in the kitchen with Kyle's words ringing in my ears, and the next my legs felt too weak to hold me. My palms were cold, my breathing shallow, but my mind was suddenly the clearest it had been in years. Shock does that. It shatters the noise until only the truth remains. Allison whispered something, her voice shaking, but I couldn't hear her. My focus narrowed to the man leaning back in his chair, like he'd just won a game no one else knew they were playing. Kyle tapped his thumb against his glass, relaxed, utterly sure of himself. That confidence, so smug, so unearned, did more than devastate me. It woke something. I stood slowly, my legs trembled, but my resolve didn't. My fingers found the strap of my bag hanging over the chair. The leather felt cool, grounding. When I picked it up, Kyle's eyes flicked to the movement. Just a flicker, but enough. Trembling, I reached for my bag and said, I paused long enough for him to smirk again. "Then you won't mind what's coming next." The room froze. Even the hum of the refrigerator felt louder than anyone's breathing. Kyle scoffed and stood up so abruptly his chair scraped across the floor. "You're not calling anyone," he snapped, stepping toward me. Before he got close, Uncle Robert moved in front of him, shoulders squared. "Back off," he said. Calm, firm, the kind of voice that had settled decades of family arguments. Kyle laughed in his face. "Oh, please. She's being dramatic. The money's gone. Done. Buried. She'll never see it again." The look he gave me wasn't the look of a man bluffing. It was the look of a man used to getting away with things, the kind of man who counted on people staying quiet. Allison finally rose from her seat, voice cracking. "Kyle, please." He didn't even look at her. He grabbed her wrist like a handle and pulled her beside him, a gesture so quick and practiced, my stomach turned. I took a step forward. "Allison," I said softly, "what's really going on?" Her eyes darted to mine, haunted, trapped. She opened her mouth, but Kyle's grip tightened. "We're leaving," he barked. "Get your stuff." "No one is going anywhere," I said. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried. "Not until I get every cent back." "Or until the police get here." Kyle laughed, a sharp, barking sound. "The police. Go ahead. Call them. Tell them you lost your money." "What are they going to do? Hug you?" He thought this was still his moment. He had no idea it was already over. Because while he had been gloating, I had been remembering something he didn't know. 6 months earlier, after a hacking attempt on my boutique's network, I'd installed a quiet little security tool on my laptop. A tool that photographed anyone trying to access my files, logged keystrokes, stored device IDs, kept everything time-stamped, and if someone had used my laptop in the middle of the night, the evidence was already safe, already recorded. I pulled my phone from my bag. Kyle lunged, but Uncle Robert blocked him again. "You won't mind what's coming next," I repeated softly. Then I made the call. The call barely rang once before the dispatcher picked up. I gave my name the address of the lake house and the words "ongoing financial fraud" with a steadiness I didn't know I still had. Kyle barked out a laugh, waving his arms like I had just performed a comedy routine. "You're unbelievable," he said. "Calling the police because you lost your little savings. Go ahead, do it. Maybe they'll send someone next week." But even as he mocked me, something shifted in the air. A current, a tension, a warning. Maybe he felt it too because his smirk faltered not enough for anyone else to notice, but enough for me. I ended the call and slipped the phone back into my bag. "We'll wait," I said simply. Kyle swung toward Allison. "Pack your things. Now." She didn't move. Her fingers curled into the fabric of her sweater knuckles, whitening. "Allison," I said gently, "just tell the truth." Her gaze flicked between us between my steady calm and Kyle's frantic irritation. She opened her mouth, but he grabbed her arm again. "Don't say a word." Emma stepped forward. "Let her talk." Kyle shot her a look that could curdle milk. "Stay out of this." But for the first time since I'd arrived at the lake house, it wasn't me who reacted. It was Allison. She wrenched her arm out of his grip, voice breaking. "I'm tired, Kyle. I'm tired of lying for you." The room froze. Aunt Patricia gasped quietly. Uncle Robert's jaw tightened. Kyle stared at her stunned. Then, anger rose in him like a tide. "You stupid," he never finished the sentence. Because that was when the sound came, a loud, violent bang so powerful it shook the walls, rattled the windows, and sent a few picture frames crashing to the floor. Everyone flinched. Even Kyle. Emma whispered, "What was that?" But I knew. Deep down, I knew. Seconds later, the front door flew open with a force that whipped cold morning air through the hallway. Heavy steps pounded across the wooden floor. Voices followed. Portland police. Nobody moved. Kyle's bravado evaporated. His face drained of color as 3 uniformed officers entered the living room, followed by a woman in plain clothes, Detective Harmon. She held a folder in her hand. "Florence," I stepped forward. "That's me." She nodded, once eyes sharp and efficient. "Your bank's cybersecurity team flagged suspicious transfers tied to your accounts. We received the alert and traced multiple login attempts from this location." Kyle found his voice stuttering. This is a misunderstanding." Someone hacked us." Detective Harmon raised an eyebrow. "Interesting." "Because the login attempts came from a recognized device." Uncle Robert's eyes drifted toward my guest room. Mine stayed locked on Kyle. He swallowed hard. "Lots of people could have borrowed her laptop." "Good," I said quietly. "Then you won't mind what's in here." I handed Detective Harmon my phone. She opened the folder I'd prepared, scrolling through photos and timestamps. Photos the security software had taken. Photo after photo of Kyle sitting at my laptop typing with intense focus, the glow of the screen reflecting off his face. Every angle, every attempt, every keystroke logged. Detective Harmon's expression didn't change, but her voice did firmer, colder. "Mr. Henderson, turn around. Hands behind your back." Kyle stumbled backward. No, wait, this is crazy." 2 officers grabbed him before he could bolt. He thrashed, shouting, "Allison! Tell them I didn't! Allison!" But Allison wasn't moving toward him. She was standing beside me, crying, but steady, stronger than I'd seen her in years. "You did it," she whispered. "You know you did." Kyle stared at her like she'd stabbed him. "You worthless Detective Harmon, cut him off. Enough." They cuffed him. His wedding band clinked against the metal as his hands shook. "You think you're free without me?" he spat at Allison. "You're nothing without me." Allison stepped closer, not to comfort him, but to deliver the quietest, sharpest blow. "I was nothing with you." His face twisted. His bravado crumbled. And for the first time since I'd met him, Kyle looked afraid. As they dragged him toward the door, he shouted my name like it was an accusation. "Florence. This isn't over." But it already was. When the officers pulled him outside, The house fell silent. Completely silent. Aunt Patricia wiped her tears. Uncle Robert let out a shaky breath. Emma touched my shoulder. Then Allison collapsed into my arms. Not weak, released, like a weight she'd carried for years had finally slipped off her back. "I'm sorry," she cried. "I should have told you. I should have left him. I just didn't know how." I held her tighter. "It's over now," I said. "You're safe." Detective Harmon returned. "With all this evidence, you'll likely recover most of the funds, and he won't be able to use threats or coercion against anyone for a long time." I nodded, but my eyes drifted toward the window, the place Kyle had stood the night before, laughing like he owned the world. Today, the world answered him back, and it didn't laugh. The lake house felt different after Kyle was gone, quieter, lighter, almost like the walls themselves exhaled. The officers' cars had already rolled down the long gravel driveway when Allison and I stepped onto the porch. She looked small in the morning light, but not fragile, more like someone finally realizing the world wasn't as dark as she'd been taught to believe. Over the next week, everything moved quickly. Detective Harmon kept me updated as the bank recovered transfer records and traced Kyle's digital trail. When she called to tell me that most of the money would be returned and the remaining losses covered by fraud protection, I sat down on the edge of my bed and let myself breathe for the first time in days. 5 years of work. Saved. Allison made her own call to a friend with a spare room and filed for divorce soon after. She moved in with me, temporarily filling my apartment with soft apologies and the scent of her late-night baking. There were moments when guilt washed over her in waves, but I reminded her that surviving someone like Kyle wasn't weakness, it was endurance. And now she was choosing something better. A few weekends later, the family gathered again at the lake house this time, not for a reunion, but a reset. We repainted the porch railings, fixed the windows Kyle had slammed during an argument months earlier, and opened every curtain to let the light back in. The house didn't feel haunted anymore. It felt reclaimed. And as I stood on the dock watching the water ripple under the sun, I realized something simple and true justice doesn't erase the pain, but it does clear enough space for healing to grow. A month later, I stood inside my second boutique sunlight spilling across the new displays like a promise I'd fought hard to keep. The money was back, the doors were open, and for the first time in a long time, I felt grounded in a life I built myself. Allison stopped by that afternoon with fresh pastries, her smile softer, steadier. She wasn't healed yet, but she was moving toward something real, something hers. Looking back at the lake house at Kyle, at everything that broke and everything that rebuilt, one truth stayed with me. Blood doesn't give anyone the right to hurt you. Boundaries do. If this story hit something in you, share your experience below and subscribe so you don't miss